You got to think about like how many people were affected.
And as you said, this is typically a routine thing when it comes to, patching and updates.
This is something that, in my mind, I'm like, this is something that can't happen, right?
Right.
It did. It happened,
shouldn't.
But you're like, I know whoever's like, this can't happen.
Man.
This can't.
What's going on, Tech Team? It is Just My Tech Sense, and I am Will Does Tech, and I am joined by my co-host,
Johnnie Tech. What's up, Tech fam?
Johnnie Tech, and we are Just My Tech Sense, where we talk tech, finance,
and
lifestyle. Round of applause for Just My Tech Sense.
There it is.
So today, if you haven't heard, and I'm sure you have, or you've been sleeping under a rock, CrowdStrike is our topic, and the effects that it's had on the global market and at a global scale.
It's tough, man. I'm thinking my mind like poor CrowdStrike right now. Poor CrowdStrike.
Man, it's crazy, but it's not, right? It's something so simple, but it's
usually what it is.
Yeah.
Usually what it is.
It's crazy just the effects that it's had on, hospitals, banks, just the widespread effects.
Right,
airports. I mean, people waiting at the airport, delays. They were saying it's over 27,000 flights that got delayed over the weekend.
Right.
So
I know it had a large effect because I was on vacation during the time, that it happened.
Yeah.
I think it happened on a Friday, right? And I get early in the morning, I get a call from my buddy. I guess he couldn't log in.
Right.
Like, hey man, are you having outages? Have you heard about what's going on? He knows. He works in another industry, but I work in cyber, so usually they give me a call, ask me what's going on.
Right.
So I'm like, I haven't heard about it. I literally just woke up, so I'll get on Google.
Right.
CrowdStrike outage.
Yeah, and everybody, I'm sure you thought it was like a cyber attack. I mean, that's probably like the first thing that went through a lot of people's heads was somebody's attacking us.
I kind of had that. How you get your heart started beating a little fast.
Right.
Like, okay, what's going on? Because it's kind of like involved in it in a sense, right?
Yeah.
It's like this breach is going to affect everyone if we've been hacked, right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely the first thing that crossed my mind. Like, okay, who was it, right?
Right.
So definitely,
right.
I'm glad it wasn't that.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, the outage happened, and supposedly it was a software bug. Right. There were patches that were pushed or updates that were pushed to Microsoft operating systems, and it crashed the system. Right. And so people woke up and they saw blue screens of death, or they were booted off.
Right.
So, and again, as we said, that was in airports. It was everywhere.
Right. No, I'm telling you, pretty much every industry. I know there's some people that may not have been affected, but I feel like more people were affected than not, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a big thing that was going on there, right?
Yeah. So talk us through what CrowdStrike is.
I mean, a lot of people may not know what CrowdStrike is. Basically, I've used CrowdStrike before, and it's pretty much just a EDR solution, so endpoint detection and response.
Yeah.
So as an analyst, we would use that tool as something to detect for incidents and events that are happening, and basically able to track that event down from the beginning to end. And a lot of companies have those. Yeah. And it's basically, if you haven't heard of CrowdStrike, then you probably heard of Microsoft endpoint for Defender, or either Palo Alto. I believe there's the Cortex, but all of them pretty much do the same thing, right?
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, according to my research, I think it was over 60% of the Fortune 500 companies actually employ some kind of CrowdStrike software. So I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot of, it spans a lot of places.
Anytime you're over half, and you're saying Fortune 500 companies, or just companies in general, they said they.
Well, I'm sure it's more than the Fortune 500 companies, but it's over 60% of
companies
Fortune 500. Of Fortune 500. So I'm sure
it's
the span is even larger than that. So.
Yeah, I mean, well, you see, it was a global thing, so they they're definitely being used worldwide, and this is something that, in my mind, I'm like, this is something that can't happen, right?
Right.
It did. It happened,
shouldn't.
But you're like, I know whoever's like, this can't happen.
Man.
This cannot. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But would you rather it be due to negligence like this, or a cyber attack?
negligence. That's easy. I'd rather
it's
it
easy
be
fix.
Yeah. Like, so now we can say, okay, there was an issue, right? But we don't have to report like we had a breach.
Yeah.
You know, there were a vulnerability and it affected all of you. Because then people are going to be even more scared, like of what's going on. Like, okay, is my information stolen?
Right.
Or,
that's true.
you know, so definitely I'd rather it be something like this that we can fix. We know what happened. It's going to be easier to find that root cause, because if it was a breach, you need to figure out how they got in. There's way more forensics and stuff that has to get done there, and there's a way. I think it'd be way more. Yeah, way more.
This was bad, but it could be worse.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you got to think about like how many people were affected. Right. That means that's a huge attack vector, right? So like. Huge. So you definitely don't want it to be you didn't want it to be a breach, right? Right. So I think that's a good thing. It wasn't, but the fact that it was still like, I'm not gonna say, well, it's insider. You know, I'm not gonna say user error.
It was an insider threat,
not insider threat, but it's like it's an in-house thing that we did. We pushed out a patch. I'm saying we just like but
I'm
not a part of.
But I say, are you?
No, I'm not. I am not. I am not with CrowdStrike. You know, I probably had an application out there, you know, once or twice, but no, they didn't bring me on. So, you know, I'm not a part of it. I'm saying we, because I fit in with the, you know, analyst community. I was a system admin at the time, and I'm a cyber analyst now. So that's why I say we, man, you know. Yeah. I feel for those guys that are, you know, going through it right now.
I'm with you, because, you know, I can only imagine what's happening inside that company, right? Inside the headquarters building. I'm sure it's crazy.
You know what I'm imagining right now? Like Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yeah. Right. Everybody's
running around, burning papers, throwing stuff everywhere. Like dumpster fires.
Updating policies. Updating SOPs, DRPs, BCPs. Right. So business continuity plan, disaster recovery plans, all these things that should be up to date that probably aren't. Right. Change management policies, configuration all the doctrine. Right.
No, we had all that in place. Like,
yeah. When was the last time it was updated?
Right. Sure, audit is coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, audit should happen anyways. Whether it's internal or external. So yeah, they should definitely be in place. But just being in the industry for as long as I've been, I know how things go.
Right. No, like, and then you mentioned all those things that should have, like, they're trying to update. Technically, those things, like you said, they should have been in place already. Like, my mind is like, that's why I said this can't happen, because
it shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen.
Right.
This can't happen, because when you, like, as a system administrator, when I was, like, we pushed out patches all the time. Like, there's something we have Patch Tuesday. There's patches constantly going out. This is like a common thing that's always being done, right? So you know, you don't really think much of it, but at the same time, you know, there's testing that goes on. There's people that need to sign off on this happening, right? Yeah. And then when they sign off on it, they are trusting you as an analyst. Like, okay, you did your testing, you did whatever needs to be done, but you know, sometimes the patch gets like. It all depends. Like, I noticed it's an internal thing with how they do their process. Yeah. But there are industry things that's supposed to be set in place to make sure that these incidents don't happen, right? Yeah. So I know when I was system admin, like I said, 2 or 3 people needed to sign off when a patch got pushed out. I had to send an email out saying, hey, there's going to be outage at this time. Yeah. And these things are done after hours, right?
It should be. Again, like, I mean, there are best business practices, obviously, but it doesn't mean you necessarily abide by them, right? So those controls that you talk about that should be in place may not be in place, right? Where stakeholders, were they notified, right, that the outage was happening, right? And as you said, this is typically a routine thing when it comes to, you know, patching and updates. So it becomes easy to become sloppy, right? Because you're just complacent with, you do it over and over and over again, and you let your guard down, right? Yep. And if you've ever, I'm gonna take back to the military. If you ever deployed, the most dangerous time to within your experience is usually the end, right? Because you've been there for so long, you become complacent, you let your guard down, right? And then things happen, right? So this is one of those things where it's like you let your guard down, and these things that shouldn't happen, right? So yeah, it's I just wouldn't want to be a part of the crisis action team that's probably assembled right now, trying to figure out, hey, how do we handle this, right? Right, they got the Band-Aid, right? They I guess they have a fix, but now they got to do a root cause analysis.
Exactly, like, and I think that's the number one thing that, you know, I keep talking about, like the system admins, IT analysts. I relate to those guys. So their when this first happened, like I said, there's a workaround now, but that was like, as you were talking about how everything looks in there, those guys are probably, okay, we got to figure out how to get this fixed, how to mitigate it, right?
Right.
And then from there forward, moving on, like I said, they're going to be trying to find that root cause, and, they have a lot of things, a lot of people to report to.
Yeah, there will be a lot of movement.
Right.
There will be a lot of movement within that org chart, right?
Yeah.
So you better have the right answers.
It's like oh my goodness, man.
I don't envy the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer. That is one position that I don't envy at this point. And we talk about money all the time, right? Like we talk about making these high six figures in tech, but there's a lot of responsibility that tends to come with that.
Right.
And you may not have your hands on what's happening in this instance, but you are still responsible, which is why you get paid the big bucks, right?
Exactly, right.
But at the same time, I know for me, being a cybersecurity manager, like those things keep me up at night, right? On the weekends, like I may not be physically at work, but in my mind, I'm like, about to push this update, right? And you hope that, again, the sandbox that you had, the rollout plan that you had, the rollback plan, all those things are tight.
Right. You're hoping everything goes well. And,
right.
No, so I totally understand that. And then, but now you mentioned weekends. It's going to be a lot of people with no weekends for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. Silver lining is it's overtime, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
It's going to be overtime.
Your salary.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, but you want to hope that overtime is like, okay, yeah, we got it fixed, but now you guys let it happen. So here's some pink slips, right? You want to hope that doesn't happen either.
Yeah. Because again, these things, as much as we want to sit here and say that it shouldn't happen, it does happen, and it happens, on a smaller scale all the time too. But again, if you have a tight rollback plan or your rollout plan, you identify, hey, we've already broken the system. It doesn't affect anybody else because you say, all right, let's roll them back. Right. And start over. Right. Let's go back to our simulation environment before we go to the production environment, and then
see what really works. I just, like, honestly, in my mind, I'm still baffled. I'm like, did they really? Do you think that they tested it? I feel like if they tested, they would have known. Like, because this is their, they're providing like third party software, right? So and they're like the amount of reach they know who they support, the amount of reach. I feel like it would have been an easy way to test it, right? So I'm like, was it tested? That's my brain.
We can only speculate, right? Somebody's going to investigate, and they'll figure it out, and whether or not they let us know the truth, I don't know, but case studies should be done, right? And I think companies should take notice and look at their security posture and potentially pour in more dollars, right, to make sure that they are good to go as well. Right. So we talked about what it might look like in the company, but what about the fallout? For the company, and then for those who are trying to make it into the tech industry.
I mean, I think the obvious thing when we talk about the company is the reputation, right? Yeah. I think the reputation has definitely taken a hit. Yeah. When people that never heard of CrowdStrike, now they know that. Yeah. There's a negative connotation to it. Yeah. People who were thinking about, as their business consultants are going out trying to sell it, a lot of people are not purchasing that now, right? Like, no, we're gonna probably go with MDE or something, someone else, right? So
all news isn't necessarily good news, right?
Exactly, right. So I definitely think that's the number one thing.
Yeah, trust is broken, right?
Oh yeah.
And building back trust. If you've ever been in a relationship before, right, and trust was, broken.
Yes, it's hard. It's definitely gonna be hard to come back from that. It's a bad
place to be.
Like, that's one thing you don't want. Like I said, I know I'm reiterating what you're saying, but like that's like a major thing, right? You lose trust in your stakeholders, right? It's really hard to come back from that. Like I know their stock has dropped,
and then you followed up with money, right? Exactly. Now you lost trust and you losing my money.
Oh yeah.
We got problems. We got problems.
Right. That's really a rough one there. I mean, what are some of the other fallouts you think can happen? Like we talk about the company, right?
Yeah, I think even within the company, I think again, depending on how much money they lose, right, there could be potential layoffs. Those who were negligent could catch a pink slip, right, and be fired, right? There are all those things that happen there. But I also think that if you are trying to break into the tech industry right now, they've effectively made it harder because that experience that you don't have, they're going to hold a lens to that, right? And really, employers are going to say, do you know what you're doing?
Right.
Because we don't want another incident like this to happen due to lack of experience, due to negligence, whatever it is.
Right. And I think this is something that we talked about before, like mentioning, like, I think we talked about is cybersecurity entry level in general.
Yeah.
That's another debate. But at the same time, right, if you are entry level or you don't have much experience, it is somewhat tough for you to get into the field. But now, like you said, with these, and this is one of the reasons why it's tough, because companies have, like I said, their reputation's on the line, money's on the line.
Yep.
There's a lot of things on the line. If they're bringing someone in that is not as experienced, then these things are likely to happen, right? So they're going to want to, now those job descriptions that are out there that says 10 years experience, they're probably going to say 15.
I think about we did a video talking about cybersecurity is boring, right? And I think overwhelmingly we said it's boring.
Yeah.
Until it ain't.
Yeah.
Right. And this is one of those till it ain't moments, right? That you long for that boring piece of it, right? So it's like, whew, I wouldn't want to be there, but I think they've upped the ante as far as those who are getting these positions. And I was watching the Dream Team documentary. And how the U.S. lost in 1988, and the NBA said this is the last time that the U.S. would not do its job, right? So we got a cybersecurity firm that's not doing their job, right? And now again, your applicants, that experience, right? Now we need Michael Jordan, now we need Magic Johnson, right. Larry Bird, David Robinson, right? And maybe you have your Christian Leitners, right? But he was an all-star in college.
Man, that's a great point that you have there, right? That's like amazing point. Give yourself a hand clap for that right there.
Here we go.
That's a great point that you mentioned that. The reason I say that's a great point you mentioned that because that set of precedents, right? So now, if you look at the USA Olympic team right now,
right,
you don't see the college kids anymore,
right?
So like, I mean, if we're talking about people going to entry level, right? Like you say, is that going to be a forever thing? Is it going to make it that much harder to look back at this incident? Because when you talk about the USA team, that's a thing now.
Right.
They don't bring the college kids anymore to play in these games, right? Because their reputation on the line. They're like, U.S. shouldn't lose,
Right.
So I think that's a great point that you had there, right, man?
Right. And there's more nuance to it. It wasn't the NBA that actually said, we'll go ahead and up the ante. But it doesn't matter, right? It is what it is. And now, right, you got to be one of the best in order to make the team.
Oh yeah.
So there's that.
One thing I did want to recommend though is like if you are entry level, it's like it's harder for you, and you're kind of just like, okay, I don't have a chance, right? But what you can do is study these type of incidents. When these things happen, you need to get yourself well versed on it, read up on it, and read exactly what happened. Right. Read where the mishaps occurred. And then and when you have these interviews, you can explain that. So you're gonna learn so much just by looking up all this information. It's gonna definitely help you moving forward. So when you go to your interviews and you speak about it, that's gonna be something that's gonna be really helpful for you. They're like, okay, at least this guy knows what's happening. He understands procedures and processes, right? And you can bring it back to real world events. Right.
Yeah, and I'd say also get hands on, right? I mean, the troubleshooting, the things that you'll learn from actually, performing hands on type exercises, you'll be able to leverage that in interviews because again, it's going to be more about your experience than your certifications or about right now for me I feel like networking is king, but I feel like networking is king to get a job, but experience is king to keep a job.
Right. Those technical interviews are going to be tough, right? So even if you get someone gets you in the door, I feel like, when you're having the interviews now, I think they're already grilling you with the technical information. Right. But I think it's like you said, it's going to be that much more, right? So you're going to have to be prepared to answer those questions because stuff like this just not supposed to happen, right? So
Yeah.
they want to make sure that they're vetting everyone that's coming in.
Right.
So I agree with you there.
And I'd also say understand the role that you're applying for, right? Don't let money be the driver unless you're willing to accept the responsibility that you're being asked to do, and that you can actually do it. Because again, when these things happen, right? I don't think you could pay me enough to be at CrowdStrike right now.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't. And it looks like the sizzle's been there for a little over a year.
Right. Yeah, they make him make his money fast now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's time to earn that pay. But I'm sure he's getting paid well. You know.
Yeah. Hopefully well enough. So this is just our tech sense. We're curious as to what your opinion is and what you think about this whole CrowdStrike outage. And then if you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe to the channel. And this is just our tech sense. We'll be talking to you.
Out.